Let me turn the volume off for my PC. Sorry. What's up? What's a goodie? Oh shit, bro. Honestly, I think that everything's kind of coming together. Like, yeah. No, like, and also, I'm just like really just with crypto in general. So, what I was going to start off with is DXY. I think you had some analysis. I don't know if it was the same, but it was something similar to this. I know there was something you had that was around this level, but we talked about this DXY level. Now, those of you've been watching the streams for a while know we've talked about this for, I don't even know, probably like I'd say a month now. But we talked about how it's right near equilibrium of the monthly price delivery range that we're most recent to. Also, this is right when the SMT divergence with the 5-year note started to begin. So that's when we started to see a fall off, and also a fall off in assets, obviously not in the dollar, but in anticipation of interest rates rising. Now, while we are kind of still in the aftermath of Jay Powell saying, expect pain and more interest rates are rising, I do think that we're going to have some relief across all markets that have anything to do with the dollar. And that goes for any kind of pairs that say, obviously at USD at the end, that goes for crypto, and then the equity market, which is S&P and NASDAQ and the Dow. Reason being is we are at key levels on quite a few different charts. Now, what we're going to start with, which is the DXY. For those who don't know, this is the dollar strength index. Basically, this just indicates how much money is flowing in or out of the United States dollar. If money is flowing into it, that means larger investors are pushing price down and on assets. They're distributing assets, and that's why you're seeing expansion on the dollar, and vice versa. If this looks like it's going to go down, that can lead to a bullish case for assets that are denominated by the dollar, such as the stock market, crypto, Euro USD, anything with USD at the end. And then for pairs beginning with USD, this can lead to a bearish narrative. So the reason we selected this level is the weekly, we are in this range down here. We're obviously, now this is the monthly chart, but when the weekly was, let's look at the weekly, we are expanding pretty rapidly. Right. So whenever, and we've talked about this in the class and the server, and then, obviously some of you guys may have seen the infographic for the draw on liquidity or seen other sources of education for that. But whenever we're looking at the higher time frames and developing our biases of where they're going, we just look for areas of liquidity. And that can be in the form of imbalances, and that can also be in the form of highs and lows. So with DXY, when we were right here in this big move right here, we were drawing towards something. So if we look left, obviously we already cleared out all the highs over the last decade, really. So if we go all the way back over here, right, it's a long time. This is 2002, but price is price. Price doesn't really know time. We just use time to view it. So when we look right here, we have this little baby bit of an imbalance right here above an old high. Now, the reason that this high was important to me is how, I should say what began after it. So we saw one of the biggest moves down, and this is after the dot-com crash. Right? If you look, we even had this distribution pattern, 3 drive on the dollar after the dot-com crash in the 90s. And this is where we saw the stock market go on another great rally. So pretty key point. And obviously we would expect the dollar to be distributed above this point. So what that would mean is that we're looking for a bullish narrative on assets denominated by the dollar. Now, don't get your hopes up, because I don't necessarily think that I'm not sitting here telling you that the bull run is back or anything like that, or any kind of all-time high. I want to be clear on that, because I know people who are leaning towards that bias because that's their personal narrative. They're going to take what I'm saying as we're in a bull run. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying we could see some short-term relief, right? So now we've moved into the zone exactly how it would if I was looking to take a sell on this, because we made our first push into the zone. And most of the time when we make one push into any kind of point of interest, whether it's a fair value gap, highs, supplier demand, order block, whatever you want to call it, any POI, well, me personally, I want to see a liquidation. So that means I want to see one push into it and then maybe a little bit of a move and a second push to liquidate the early entrance. So in this example, we have just that. And then this crazy wick right here. It's like, I don't even know what the fuck's going on here, but we pushed up in the zone, filled this imbalance, and see how we moved away from this with displacement. Now we jump back up here, but price is moving very harsh to the downside. Now, we still have a key point to get under, in my opinion, is going to be this right here. Because we are, I think, sitting in a 1 hour fair value gap right now. So, we're still kind of where we need to, theoretically, we need to get over the hump here. But I'm using this analysis with the company of where we're at with Bitcoin, where we're at with the S&P and the NASDAQ. So, that was what I wanted to start off by going over. And now where do I think we're going? I would look for this low right here and this fair value gap. Then revisit, key areas at that point. Again, I do not think that we are just going to the moon or something ridiculous like that. Last time we called analysis on the dollar index, we called it to go back to this imbalance. It did, and see, it went to the imbalance. Wanted a little bit deeper, and we got a liquidation into a lower imbalance. So now if we're going to look at, there's a couple setups I wanted to go over, one of which being USD JPY. So USD JPY has seen one of the most explosive bull runs and very clear bullish trends we've seen on, or I've really seen on any Forex pair. So this, since it has the US dollar at the beginning of it, remember we said that if the DXY is bearish, then pairs with US dollar at the beginning are going to be bearish as well. Because remember, we're looking at the dollar strength. So if dollar strength's going down and we see the US dollar denominated by the yen, we're looking for the dollar to go down. So we look back here. I was just looking back. I had to actually switch charts to the FXCM feed because the Oanda doesn't even have data back. This is back in 98. So we have this imbalance here, a couple years before the DXY imbalance, but still it's a long time, a very old imbalance. Now that doesn't really necessarily mean much to me, except it's just kind of interesting, but a very old imbalance. We're above a lot of highs. We've really removed a ton of liquidity. Now, again, it's not to say we can't go higher, but in these areas, we look for price to retrace. We look to get a reaction. So on the weekly chart, whenever I'm looking at the USD JPY, I'm not necessarily, if we do start to move down, depending on how this week goes, we're going to have an imbalance here. And then we're going to have another one right here. All right, this one's pretty small. I'm not necessarily sure how I feel about this one. Again, with the weekly chart, it's going to be take us a little more time. I want to develop a weekly swing high before I say that we're coming down. But ideally, what I would like to see on a weekly is a push down to this low instead of that imbalance. And the reason why is because when I talked to this on Twitter, I actually gave somebody a membership to a Playbit today because they caught one of these. And JL, we were on voice. Nobody was even in there earlier in Playbit, and we were talking about 3 drives. So if we notice, we have a 1, 2 potential third drive. Now it's a little choppy on the weekly, kind of bunched up. Look probably cleaner on a daily or a 3-day. But once we see that third drive into our higher time frame zone, right? Because we're just viewing it on a weekly. If we look at the daily, 1, 2, 3. Now, if we start to see signs of reversal here, we're going to seek out this sell side liquidity. I need to change that because it still says imbalance. Almost read it wrong. And the reason I'm picking that as our weekly sell side liquidity is because that's where we moved most violently away from. But if I look at the daily, I'm going to push it actually up to right here, just because on the daily, it seems to me that this could be a protected low. This filled mode imbalance. There was definitely institutional involvement and entries here. So we see this right here, and then we push violently away from it. And it's one of those pivotal swing points where we could see price return to. So again, I think it's too early to just call that at this moment. But what I'm looking for here is a one final little push above this high, but it's not required. But one final push above this high, preferably during the London session here in a couple hours, or anytime between then and the New York Equity Open, or I'm sorry, the London close on Wednesday. And the reason for that is if we are going to have a bearish week, which we might just consolidate up here, we're at a very key level. There's a lot of money shifting hands here. Weak hands to strong hands is going to be the thing soon. But I think that at this moment, we really need to get above this high and start to push more of a false narrative. That way we can start to go to the downside. So what I'm looking for, and this is also already following a typical bearish week by immediately moving up at New York, or at the not New York midnight, at Sunday at the market open. So ideally what I'd like to see, because we have this zone right here of liquidity, or liquidity pool I should say, I would like to see a push up above this zone. Or if we establish, maybe, to be honest, it looks like we're starting to build up some liquidity above this high, or even just above this right here on the 1 hour. The 4 hour is going to be up there. But any push or run on stops during the London session on Tuesday, which is going to be in a couple hours, preferably I'd like to see it there, and then start to see that expansion to the downside. Now this is an Asian pair; it's going to move differently. It moves during the Asian session, but we can still look for those characteristics of the beginning of a weekly bearish candle. So, with this DXY move, obviously we've seen it move to the downside. Theoretically, the order flow on the 1 hour is still pretty, I would say bearish. That was your displacement break of structure, and you're kind of operating within this range. Again, I want to see it a little higher. I'm just going to be patient with this one. I don't think it's any need to rush. Now, if we start to see the higher time frames break down with displacement, I will change that narrative and look for sells after that. But if I'm going to try to snipe the top, I'm going to be pretty patient and pretty selective. So the first setup that I'm watching is going to be USD JPY, and it's going to be for sells. And I'm not going to force longs here. I would preferably be able to get into some intra-week swings on this trade. But again, I'm not going to force anything. I want to wait for what I'm looking for. So again, what I'm looking for is either a push above this and then a reversal, a sharp reversal, originating between 2 a.m. tonight, Eastern time, and then 11 a.m. on Wednesday. Otherwise, I'm looking for a displacement break of structure in the 4 hour, which, again, I need a closure, because if I see this as a lot of liquidity right here, we could get a push down into this fair value gap and then get that break of structure we're looking for. Well, I guess liquidity rate is what I should say. And then at that point, we probably would have some form of breaker, displacement break of structure, fair value gap. You know the drill, something along those lines. But again, it's developing. We just got above this, not even, over, I think it was Friday. Was it the 2nd? Was that Friday? Yeah, we just got above that on Friday. So again, it's developing. Don't need to rush it. Could easily see some more highs. But now the pound dollar, no, it wasn't this pair actually. Oh yeah, Aussie JPY. What I'm looking for here, I alerted the group about this. We've got now our push into the zone. We've got our liquidation. Actually, probably about to get what I'm looking for. I want to get a displacement break of structure under here, and then I'm going to look to sell this. So see how that works out. This is another Asian pair. It moved during the Asian session. And again, this is what I'm talking about when I say I like to see a sweep into a zone. This doesn't necessarily cement anything. This could continue the upside. But for instance, if we just moved up into the zone right there and then came straight down and broke structure, I would be a little more hesitant, because we hadn't got a sweep to wipe out the early entrance. So Aussie yen shorts, that's another sell I'm looking at. Reason being, we're above these daily highs right here. It came above them, and then we saw some displacement to the downside in the 4 hour. Got a break of structure. Price returned up into this refined supply inside the 1 hour fair value gap. Displacement break of structure to the downside, and then I found some fractal. There we go. Now let's see how we close. but a fractal, sorry, forgive me, a fractal supply zone. I took this candle, which is, I guess you'd call it the flip zone, up just to the top. I didn't want to use this entire zone, but it also is the fair value gap fill. So that's why I picked that zone. Now, what I'd like to see here is I ideally see a closure. I don't like how that wick is moving up that quick. We'll see how this one pans out. It seems like it's gearing up. So Aussie yen shorts potentially. We might even get those while we're on stream, depending on. I don't like the wick though, I will say. But if we get a closure under that, I'd be looking for this right here. But again, I'm not liking that wick. We'll come back to that in a second. Dollar CAD. This isn't a POI as well. For me, though, I'm not going to force this one just because it's not in session. And the only pairs I trade during the Asian session are Asian pairs. But what I like about this pair so far is we didn't move it immediately down from the weekly open. Let me move this a little clearer. I don't know how that got moved. It did. So the weekly open, we moved a little bit above it originally, but now we're starting to see the expansive moves to the downside. Running these stops coming into this imbalance. Also, there's some refined demand down here. The overall narrative for me with US dollar CAD has not changed. You guys know we've been talking about this high for some time now, so I still want this taken. I think a lot of shorts are building up in the market, looking at this as a traditional resistance area. So I could easily see that get wiped the fuck out, and potentially after that frame some selling ideas. But again, I'm not going to force this right now just because it's out of session for me. It's not what I want to trade. Obviously, what I'd be looking for is some manipulation through the Asian or after the Asian range. So probably range around here, ideally between now and midnight, and then maybe see some false move to the downside, sweep out lows, potentially this right here. There's going to be a lot of liquidity there. Be easier to see on a 15-minute. Sweep maybe down into this fair value gap, and then see after that Judas swing, see the London expansion, and hopefully by the time we're coming to our desk tomorrow morning, get some kind of optimal trade entry retracement, and then look to, at that point, I would look to just swing along, targeting highs all throughout. So that's dollar CAD. Let me change that. So dollar JPY and dollar CAD. And again, notice how I'm looking at dollar pairs. So whenever DXY is at a very key level, my interest is going to be on pairs with the dollar. Now, not only, obviously, we're talking about Aussie yen as well, but start to look, for pairs that, are obviously have the dollar in them for Forex, or, indices, crypto, stuff that the US dollar has a heavy influence on, because oftentimes you're going to be able to find some pretty good setups in those markets. So now let's get to indices. Oh, wow, they're fucking moving during the Asian session. I had marked this up earlier today. Damn, this is actually moving pretty clean. What I wanted was a break above this. Yeah, it's moving. Well, yeah, I mean, the markets were moving, but as far as, you could participate in this, just not the stock exchange or CME group. Yeah, US 100 is looking pretty fire too. Oh, it's moving crazier. I almost would have rather this happen tomorrow, but at the same time, not that surprised. Where'd you put it at? The chart chat? Let me peep it. Yeah. No, it's this level right here. That's that refined 4-hour demand that sponsored that initial break. That's really where my interest was on. Was I think S&P I marked it, but the same thing on NOS. Overall, when I'm looking at the daily chart here, I see a very probable push back above this high right here. So I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to mark this as the imbalance. Usually I don't mark them until the fills, but I'm just going to mark this just to keep it mindful. This is kind of where I want price. I could see a run on these highs and some manipulation down first, but ideally, I want to see a push back above or into this imbalance. That's crazy. I gave a nice entry because look, what I was looking for, I just wasn't watching it because it was at a session, was waiting for a break of this high and then just looking at whatever sponsored that, and that was right here. I don't know. You could have traded some. Oh, I know. I've got some of the best entries I've ever got on indices at like 8.15. But 8:30 has a lot of influx of volume due to news, and then also there's a lot of private economic data that comes out at 8:30. Actually, speaking of, I want to see coming up this week. OPEC. Okay, so that's gonna be fun for oil. That was today. Okay, so Aussie dollar's got some volatile news coming up here in the next 3 hours. That's something we'll be mindful of during that Aussie trade. High volatility. Well, yeah, I mean, I would probably going to wait till 10 a.m. to get any trades on indices in the morning, just because if they've got these two, this is a medium impact, but when we have a medium impact and a high impact within 15 minutes of each other, we'll be looking for a liquidity raid. And what you can do is when you get to your desk in the morning, just get on like 15-minute chart and mark the clearest area of stops for both sides of the market. Preferably, I would look for sell side raids. But tomorrow will be pretty interesting. Best to wait until after 10, in my opinion. If you're already in a trade that, is maybe if you got in here, obviously it'd be a different story, but we'll see how this moves. But overall bias, I want us to go higher. We've got a lot of liquidity up above these highs and above these highs right here. So you can see last week, the weekly open, we moved under for a little bit, then moved above, made that nice little raid on liquidity into this fair value gap. Here, I'll zoom in on this. Can't see anything there. And that was during the it was during the London session still. I made the high. Not the second high, was 6, and oftentimes you'll see that happen. And that was on Tuesday of last week, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Tuesday. So again, we're going to look for those highs to be put in on Tuesday, and that'll help us along with the weekly bias. So if we're looking at the weekly on the S&P, we've came into this order block right here. So we haven't formed a weekly swing low yet, but the daily, I look at this right here as our protected low as of now. That's not saying it can't get rated, but that's what I want to see that hold. Euro, yen, a lot of yen pairs are moving really crazy right now. Right? That call came in. We'll look at that in a second. It's no rush. That's just at a 4-hour supply zone. But here, what I see from these zones, and this is the same for NOS, break up right there. Now we have that newly introduced institutional order flow. When we look on the 1 hour or the 15 minutes, we have a better view. We're now seeing that respected. I would have, looked at this as the high. You could look at that as a more conservative high. Either one, we broke above both. Let's look at ES. What kind of gap did we make? Did we make a gap on opening? No, it didn't. So you don't want to see this. Well, actually, I kind of want to see this. But if you are in a long right now, you wouldn't want to see this trade under this fair value gap and reprice under it, because then it would start seeking these lows. But that's kind of what I want, because I want a better entry tomorrow. Also, there's probably going to be some form of fractal order flow here in these buy to sell wicks. 5 minute. Yeah, you can see it right here, that little area we're in. I didn't select them. Again, overall bias with indices. The reason that I like where we're at is we took this low. So if you're looking, yes, the major sell side, is going to be down here and down here. I get it. And this is the weekly levels. That's where these came from. Now this is also, actually, I might need to change that. Yeah, this is old. It's not a previous monthly low. I just never changed the, what's it called? So, and this was the previous monthly low whenever it got taken right there. So that area, if you look, we moved very, very volatile off of that area. Or moved in a volatile manner. Sometimes I'm thinking too much and can't talk, but you guys get the picture. So we came out, we've removed the sell stops into a weekly order block, right? We have price delivery raise at a premium of the price or the current impulse swing we're in. So I would look for price to come above, and that's why I'm looking for price to come above this high. So with NASDAQ, it's going to be very similar. I think NASDAQ is going to be a better opportunity just because of the distance that we're going to have. So if you look here, very similar, high barely above premium, there's a lot of liquidity there, imbalance that's not rebalanced. Pretty easy. And then, again, sell side liquidity taken, weekly order block. Right? It's not very complicated here. And that's just what I'm looking at. I could, and after that, that's where we revisit and maybe change our bias. Again, I view this right now as the swing low. Ideally, we wouldn't want it taken, but it wouldn't be the end of the world if it does, as long as we see impulsive moves under that, to the upside. US 30, I don't really trade this as much, but I will just show you the TA on it. You can see I haven't done shit on here in a while. With US 30, as with everything else, we had taken out these equal highs. And after that, we started to break structure to the downside, just like everything else. Whenever I am looking at the current impulse swing, again, it's the same thing. We have these highs right here, just above what is left of this imbalance. So, and then the end of the daily sell side liquidity got taken actually a little sooner than 30, but it gets dragged down at the other indices. And the reason I'm picking, a lot of people would maybe pick this area right here. Me personally, I would pick this low. The reason for that is that's where we moved the most expansively off of. Price moved way harder off that low than it did that low, because we made a low, come high, low, and then the move. So that's where the sell stops remain. Well, they did remain until we took them. So here, again, ideally what I want to see is price to move through this Asian session and generate liquidity. And then if we can see, this goes for all indices, I want to see those Asian lows rated, preferably into maybe an imbalance. Doesn't look like there's going to be one for 30. Let me look at this. Should have to revisit in the morning. But ideally, what I think we're drawing to on the lower time frames is going to be up into, let me turn this off, up into this area right there, that 1 hour candle. That's where I see price drawing towards. Really, if you want to be a little more conservative, you could say this area, because that would be the first area of interest in a premium of the impulse swing. I'll draw it from actually like right here. Really just these two candles. And the reason I picked that is it's just this last little buy to sell range, and it took liquidity and also pushed into an old area of institutional order flow. That's the reason I selected that zone. So indices, looking for some potential bullish price action this week, just based off of the daily and weekly charts. Gold. Let me take some of this off because too much drawings. So gold might do, that good old gold thing and not take the lows. I really wanted to take this low. Where I'm at on gold, we've talked about a couple times the weekly. I mean, there's something about this fucking 1670 level that is like kryptonite to gold. It just runs the fuck away from it every time. I don't know what kind of manipulation it is, but I really want this to get taken. Ideally, I mean, really this low. I'll settle even if just this low is taken. That's almost what I would, see happening. whenever I look at this most recent impulse swing, we came back just now actually to, it looks like a premium. I haven't looked at this chart today. So what I was going to talk about is I thought we were still a little lower, but we came above this high. This is the zone I wanted to watch, and now we've came into a premium. So let me go on a 4-hour here. I'm going to hide some of this. Sorry, it's taking a lot. Let me just do this. Not that. There we go. Okay. I'll move this down to the new weekly open. So we're moving above the weekly open. Pretty big move up, but this is going to induce buyers. So the way I see this is we have a pretty good chance of putting in this high during the London session we have here. So I would look for liquidity to generate between now and midnight on the lower time frames. Hopefully we kind of just consolidate here and then see a run above that liquidity and then expansion of the downside. Because overall, I just can't make myself lean. As much as I wouldn't be surprised to see gold start running because of the dollar. Because remember, it's gold against the dollar. But when I'm just looking at this chart, I'm not going to make myself long this. If I don't get the sell setups, then I just won't trade as far as any kind of anything longer than a scalp. But we did remove a lot of sell side right here. But now we've started to form that swing low, and now we're looking to push back into price delivery arrays in a premium. Oh, I'm gonna have to mute you, Garcia. Sorry. I feel bad because I know people don't realize, but I mean, theoretically, if we started to move higher, this would be the zone I would look for. But again, I have no reason to look for that yet. It's a very deep premium. It is probably closer to optimal trade entry. I mean, I just can't make myself look for that just yet. It looks like some fractal order flow right here, but it may have already been mitigated. Again, I want to see what London does. If we can get a nice liquidity rate to the upside, then expansion to the downside, that will further cement my bearish narrative. And ideally, I'm not going to even target the actual equal lows of 1676 just because I know how gold is. I'm just going to look for this low right here. So gold is one I'm kind of still iffy on. If I had to lean one way, even though the dollar is, pretty fucking bearish right now, I'm still going to lean bearish with gold just because of the daily chart. That could change. Again, I'm looking for that liquidity rate during London. So crypto. Crypto to me is right now probably the clearest power of three I've personally ever seen. And I may be wrong. I don't know. I'm not scared to be wrong. The way I see it right now is going to be price accumulated above an area of sell side liquidity. Right. And the reason I have this low picked is because we moved more expansively off this than we did any other low in this range, except the second of these equal lows. And in my opinion, we moved more expansively off of it. Right. And it swept liquidity here under this candle. So whenever we see price come down to that range, we see the accumulation of orders, right? Because retail views this as support. So everybody's buying here because it's a big move by the dip, right? That's kind of the narrative. And then what? Then we don't. And we talked about this, and I didn't see this at first. I'll be honest. I did not see this at first until we were down here. So we did not retrace to a premium of the impulse move. Now, whether you take it off the true impulse move or the entire move, all the way from the top of the third drive, we never moved up there. So if we switch this to an optimal trade entry fib, you can barely see it there. But what I want to point out is this breaker block that sits right at optimal trade entry and at the fill of this fair value gap. So when I'm looking on the lower time frames, like say like a 1 minute, and I'm looking to play a liquidity rate, oftentimes I'm going to look for that 3 drive into the higher time frame POI, just like over here, we had a 3 drive into a fair value gap, right? I think it was right off of equilibrium that it reacted. Do this, I can actually see it. You see, it was right into the premium. So what I say, 3 drive on Neo. Let me look. Is that the picture you have? I wouldn't consider that. I mean, you're saying like maybe to the downside before. Let me look at it on my chart. Give me like 2 seconds, and I'll go over it. But to the upside, I mean, I see it more here. I'll just pull it up my screen, your chart. So I see a 3 drive more, if anything, and really like one right there, and a third one right here. Then you get that displacement, return down into the demand or institutional involvement area, and then push the upside. I don't see one on the anywhere to the upside right here. And maybe if you're on like a very low time frame somewhere up here, you might see it. But I have 2 trading. Oh yeah, that's JL's chart. What the fuck's that? So here's another example of one that I put. Where is it? Somebody wanted free month of Playbit. You can see where I gave him the money to get join Playbit. But where is? Hold on. Oh, it's right here. So this would be like a better 3 drive. There's a 1, 2, third drive into the 15-minute imbalance. Now push down, and you wouldn't look for the range lows. You just look for this imbalance, and that's exactly where it went. Or really, even these equal lows. Just the next area of obvious liquidity. But anyways, see on the daily, see how much I like that looks. This is what I was actually telling people to look for, was the daily one. But anyways, oftentimes with these 3 drives, we see a mitigation of the breaker block or the fair value gap created on the impulse move down. And we did not see price push into a premium, right? Why? Because it was drawing to the liquidity under this low. So guess what's going to happen now? Everybody's going to want to short Bitcoin here. And that's where you have your manipulation. So in this range, we're going to have that accumulation, manipulation, and then we look for distribution of order flow. I know a lot of people are thinking distribution is just down. It's just, I didn't name it. It's not my thing. I'm just showing you what I see. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, even the daily is there too. Really, like all this. But yeah, so now everybody's trying to short. Everybody's selling. When meanwhile we've raided liquidity, and not only did we raid liquidity, we did it into a daily order block, and we're consolidating within it. Right? Not only are we consolidating within it, we're exhibiting bullish order flow. Right? The 4-hour chart went bullish right there. And then, yes, I guess if you look at it, like you could say we switched back bearish, whatever you want to say. But I look at this as our high and our low. And price here has just been exhausting retail traders. Another thing you can do to kind of accentuate this sort of bias that Bitcoin is just consolidating, ready to move, is that a lot of alts have looked really good or been moving. I know we got, any of you guys who were at the live stream on Friday, you guys got fucking paid off ADA. It's almost a full TP, but we saw this same kind of price action, same thing on ADA. Right? Now, ADA is almost done what I want Bitcoin to do. You notice this breaker right here. Right? Add optimal trade entry. So this is kind of what I want Bitcoin to do. But I'll be happy anywhere above these highs here. But this is what I want to see with Bitcoin, is a push back up, induce a false bullish narrative, right? And mitigate the buys that smart money put in here to take the stops. Now, I could be wrong about the breaker, but I'm pretty confident that we're going to come above this high. All right, so anywhere above this high to this breaker is where you're looking for, displacement on the higher time frames to the downside. Because after that, what I would see, now the highest that I want us to go, if I'm looking to sell, like if I'm looking to sell, the highest I want us to go is that, because there's going to be a lot of liquidity above this high. Right? And the reason I'm picking this high and not this high is because that's where we started to move impulsively off of. So again, above this high up to the breaker block. Now, if we pip the high, that'd be fine. Like if we rate it, but if we start to see strong movements past that, I'm almost going to look for more longs at that point. But I'm not seeing that, to be honest, because at that point, I think indices will be where they need to be at, and the dollar will also be back in that imbalance, and then I still think we resume that bearish trend and come back probably down to these lows. Well, again, we're not trying to predict the future, but so I said, any recommendations for office chairs? Yeah, actually, the one I have is fucking great. It's the Autonomous Ergo Chair Pro. Super nice. I've sat in a Herman Miller, and it's very similar to it. It's like I think it's like $600, but Herman Millers are like $1,200, bro. So it's worth every fucking penny. Like it's I used to have a shitty chair that I was stubborn and had forever because I just wanted to like not spend money on a chair, but it's literally one of the best investments I've made. Yeah, the Herman Miller is super fire. I would recommend that one as well. But it's a good chair is like literally so important if you spend a lot of time in your seat. Or, you know, exactly. Same here. And what's it called? Autonomous even like lets you get like a business account. It gives you a discount if you have an LLC. Yeah, that's fire. That's a steal. No, no. Fucking but yeah, with Bitcoin, that's what I'm looking for is I want to see some bullish movement, and it's agreeing with my analysis on the dollar and also with the equities market. So I think this is going to be a good week. Last week was pretty fickle. We still got some good setups late in the week. We took a loss on Sol. I wonder if I saw the TA up for that. Oh yeah, I wanted to review that. I'm actually glad I just said that. I think it like accumulated right under our stop and started railing, but that's painful. Well, what I had seen, was whenever we came under this low, I was looking at price in the narrative that we took the low and then immediately got a 4-hour break of structure to the upside, right? So then I looked at this 4-hour candle and I saw that price went up, traded right back into it. So then I can't remember if it was a 1 hour or 15 minute. Yes, 15 minutes. So as price went back into that 4-hour zone and the imbalances, I looked for that break of structure. Now you could have marked this low, this high, or this high. Doesn't matter. They all got broken in the same impulse move. And then I just looked for the extreme that that sponsored that. Price had already returned to that. So then I looked for the next zone. Now, the reason I picked this was because after we came back down into the 15-minute original POI, we broke supply. So this supply right here was entering the market that pushed us down and manipulated us. And this shows the flip from supply and demand, or at least what I thought was. And if I take this fib right here and I do an optimal trade entry, it was sitting right at it. So, and we went over this live too. So that setup, I did like it. It just didn't work out, right? And I won't blame it on the market. I mean, who knows? It could have been a lot of things. It seems like it wanted something down here lower. In hindsight, we can always go back and find, the perfect POI. Anybody can do that. It looks like this was it, though. I don't want to, anybody could do this, obviously. So it looks like that candle was the perfect POI. The reason I didn't refine to that whenever I did this 4-hour zone was because the main candle that I see that took liquidity was this candle. And, at that time we already tapped into this candle. So that was my analysis there. We got literally stop punted the liquidity that was under us. Our liquidity got accumulated and then it started rallying. So it's never fun to see that. But at the end of the day, ADA made up for it tenfold. Well, not 10, but probably like 5-fold or something at whenever it highs. But so ADA was a very nice trade. We called that live. This was pretty simple. We just looked for the bullish order flow and kind of just followed it. So we had that sweep of liquidity right here, break of structure, price moved back into this candle, another break of structure, and then we looked at the lower time frames. I think I used a 1 hour was what I used because it was clearer. Yeah. And we were about right here during the stream. It was like a 10:30 to 11. So right here, we look at these lows as a form of liquidity. So anytime you have a liquidity pool just beyond your POI, that automatically increases its value in my opinion. And you can see that this was the correct zone. So we got that. Very nice play. It ran all through the weekend. I think ADA was the top gainer on Friday with Filecoin. What's funny is I wanted a long fucking Filecoin and I just didn't because I was in too many trades and the TA fucking smacked. We'll go over that too. I was like, wow, that's painful. Yeah, it was down here. I think it was like around what day was Friday? Yeah, so I would think it was during like right after stream on Friday, somewhere around this zone. But I came back a couple hours and it fucking started rallying. But anyways, Filecoin, very similar setup, and this goes hand in hand also. If you look, this is a very good example of what I want to happen on Bitcoin. Now, Filecoin didn't remove any liquidity, but it did trade into an imbalance or set of imbalances right there, and then this order block as well. So whenever you see that kind of price action, remember that accumulation, manipulation, and then now it seems like the distribution has started. You know, honestly, we might have another entry the more I sit here and look at this. I kind of already gave it, to be quite honest with you. Price came in, you got that sweep. Super nice, clear POI. Price traded through it, came back into it. You know what? I like this zone right here. So let me see what I would preferably rather have a stop loss under these lows. Because that's more of a decisional point. I could see it go well under this. I could see it go under this POI. I'm not going to use that. I don't really want to use this as well. The reason being is just this one candle down here. I could easily see a sweep down into that area. But if we go under here, that would probably shift the narrative for the time being. Pretty wide stop. I mean, the next target would be up here. So that's already checks. The overall target is going to be right on the weekly. It's looking, I have this marked for some reason. I'm not sure why. Oh, yeah, maybe it was first one, wrong one. First one in a premium. Yeah, that's what that was. So that's where I would look. I'd probably just look for equilibrium on this. Maybe a 4-hour zone. Okay, I'm actually just going to pick that because that's the only level I see. No, let me do this. 7.47. This reward's more than enough there. So target's going to be pick this high. I might end up changing that, depending on the reaction. This end up might getting moved to as TP1. Second one is clear as fucking day. TP2. Damn, I'm gonna delete this to not confuse anybody. Let me go ahead and get this posted up. Oh, I gotta make sure I get this level right. Hold on. So what is this? I'm actually just gonna do the imbalance itself. Yeah, I like that better. So that's 6110. Somebody said AJ. I wonder what it's doing. Let me look. I'll look after this. Right. HA. Okay, so yeah, that's why we don't want to jump the gun on that. There wasn't any, so that's what I was saying before. See how we closed like that? To me, that's why I don't want to trade that. So, that's why we got to wait. And it's always good to be patient. Just because you're in a zone and just because you even get a break of structure doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you're looking for. Because whenever we see this, all I see there is price moving violently away from a liquidity pool, which tells me that we're still seeking higher. So I want to wait. We also have high volatility news. I think it said 12:30, right, for the Aussie dollar. At 12:30 a.m., which I know says tomorrow, but this was September 6th. So here in about 2.5 hours, gonna be a lot of volatility here. Probably see price consolidate up until that point and then look for a raid on liquidity. It could even raid the high up here, to be quite honest with you. But nothing we want to rush into. There's always going to be more setups. If we get what we need, we'll enter it, but please don't just FOMO into it. So now the new point to be would be really right here. And I'll set alerts for that. I'll extend it out in time in case by the morning you might have already done something, but we'll keep an eye on that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Really gonna be watching US dollar pairs for the most part for Forex, US dollar CAD, and dollar yen. Oh, there's another one actually as well. Holy shit. Well, it's been moving. I want to, I think I have alert. Yeah, I have alert set for the New Zealand dollar, US dollar. I like this setup a lot. And if you notice, look at all these things that are coming together. This is old. That are coming together along with where DXY is at, right? Rated sell side liquidity on the New Zealand dollar. All right, so now where are we going to move to? For me, I'm going to look for this high right here. Not an imbalance, buy side liquidity, along with this high, but I'll settle for the other. So I'll be framing bullish trade ideas up until that point, and then I could see a move to the downside after that. But again, really nice setup here, and we're kind of tracking the order flow. We got a 4-hour shift right there, came back to the order block. Now price consolidated. I wanted to sweep under these lows, to be honest, but this in itself is good enough for me. I'll wait for price to return down to this zone and then watch the 5-minute for confirmation. Again, not going to rush anything. This is going to move volatile around 12:30 as well. The New Zealand dollar will move with the Australian dollar oftentimes. Pretty similar setup on the Aussie dollar, but not the same as in the sense I don't like it as much because we didn't take liquidity. I mean, we did, but not in the same form we took the New Zealand dollar. This TRB did get stopped out. Well, there's TRB. I got stopped out, so that one has been one we've been waiting for a while. I guess the rest of crypto is making a move to the downside, but Phil's probably going to get it filled as well. We'll probably see some manipulation pushing up into the session tomorrow. We'll see how this goes, and let me go ahead and alert that Phil got, or not Phil, but TRB got stopped. That one we've been waiting on for a while. We got into it. It seemed very weak. It takes the first, it's death plunge way more than everything else. But what I was seeing on TRB was a push under this low into this imbalance on the daily chart. It seems like it wants this order block down here. That's where it's at now. But the 4-hour had given a shift right here. And then we had came back into that shift and got what I was looking at as bullish order flow. But we see that price just kind of moved to the downside after that. And I was hoping that it was going to move to the upside of crypto, or the rest of crypto did, but it moves twice as hard down with it than when it moves up. So pretty big push to the downside there on that. So that one got stopped out. So that puts TRB and Sola stops with an ADA, I think hit like 6R at peak. So at the end of the day, it can't be really that sad. It is frustrating whenever you see a setup go wrong, though. Let me go ahead and alert that really quick. Good old fucking TRB. Yeah. Who knows? Those lows might end up getting swept on corn. Again, I think we'll see more clarity with New York Open tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking for a move to the upside still on most stuff. That's good old corn for you. Baked. Phil get activated there? I don't even have my broker open. No, I didn't. Okay, cool. We'll see how that goes. Try to think, kind of go over everything one last time before I hop off here. So yeah, bearish on the dollar yen, but not rushing it. I still think we'll see some upside before down. Dollar CAD, I would like to see this high taken and then a very big move to the downside. You know, yes, it has dollar in the head of it, but I really want to see these highs get taken, and then I will look for sells. I'm not going to shift my bias of this high getting taken. Again, we'll see how that goes. Just kind of being patient with that one. Aussie yen, we've already went over that a couple times. We don't want to force anything, and especially with the news coming up. New Zealand dollar is going to be a prime setup for longs once we kind of come back down to these zones. Indices and crypto, I'm looking for upside. Gold, I want to see downside. But again, with gold, I kind of want to give it a little more time. It's a daily. Yeah. I want to give it a little more time and see where we're at. Ideally, I want to see us put in that high during the London session. I think we went over dollar. Pretty sure that's everything I wanted to go over. Yeah, as always, I appreciate you guys. We'll be on here tomorrow at lunchtime to kind of recap the morning's price action and go over anything we're looking at going into the afternoon session. And yeah, just stay safe out there. Don't overtrade. Don't liquidate yourself. There's always another trade. And till then, I'll see you later. Peace.